The breaking point. The ultimatum. The communication chamber aboard the massive space station Nexus Prime buzzed with tension as representatives from 12 major galactic civilizations waited. The crystalline walls reflected the worried faces of beings from across the galaxy, each knowing that today would mark a turning point in galactic history. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the chamber, her simple blue Earth uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by the alien delegates. Her calm demeanor gave no hint of the storm brewing behind her dark eyes. She had been Earth's voice in galactic politics for 15 years, and today would be her most important speech. Chancellor Zix-9 of the Galactic Coalition rose from his floating platform, his tentacled form shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that indicated his authority. His voice echoed through the chamber's translation systems, reaching every delegate in their native language. Ambassador Rodriguez, he began, his tone carrying the weight of absolute certainty. The Coalition has been more than patient with humanity's expansion into contested space sectors. Your species has ignored 17 formal warnings and violated 43 galactic preservation protocols. The time for negotiation has ended. Elena remained silent, her hands clasped behind her back as she listened to the familiar accusations. Around her, delegates from the Krillian Empire, the Vorth Confederacy, and other major powers nodded in agreement. They had all reached the same conclusion about humanity. The Coalition hereby demands the immediate withdrawal of all human settlements from the Outer Rim territories. 6-9 continued. Human expansion must cease beyond the boundaries established in the Terra Accords. Your species will submit to galactic oversight for all future colonization efforts. These terms are non-negotiable. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Even by Coalition standards, these demands were harsh. Several delegates from minor civilizations shifted uncomfortably, remembering their own struggles with the Coalition's restrictive policies. Elena finally spoke, her voice clear and steady. And if humanity refuses these demands? The Chancellor's bioluminescent patterns flared brighter. Then the Coalition will take necessary action to enforce galactic law. Your 17 colony worlds will be quarantined. Trade with human space will cease. Your species will learn that defiance has consequences. I see, Elena replied, her tone remaining perfectly neutral. You're offering us a choice between submission and isolation. We are offering you the chance to remain part of civilized galactic society, corrected Delegate Morthak of the Krillian Empire, his massive form shifting with agitation. Your species is young and reckless. This is for your own good. Elena smiled, and something about that expression made several delegates uncomfortable. Chancellor Zix-9, honored delegates, I appreciate your concern for humanity's well-being. However, I'm afraid we must decline your generous offer. The announcement. The chamber fell silent. In the history of the Galactic Coalition, no species had ever outright refused their demands. The consequences were always too severe, the isolation too complete. Perhaps you misunderstood, Zix-9 said slowly. This was not a request. The Coalition speaks for over 400 civilizations. You cannot stand against the galaxy. We're not standing against the galaxy, Elena replied. We're simply choosing our own path. She activated a small device on her wrist, and the chamber's central display came to life. Star charts appeared, showing human space and the surrounding sectors. To the alien delegates, it looked like a standard territorial map. They had no idea they were seeing something that would haunt their nightmares. For the past 30 years, Elena continued, humanity has followed galactic protocols. We've limited our expansion, restricted our research, and accepted your oversight. We've been good galactic citizens. Then why abandon that path now? Asked Delegate Silvera of the Ethereal Collective, her energy form flickering with confusion. Because we've learned something important about ourselves, Elena said. Humans don't thrive under restrictions. We never have. When you try to contain us, we find ways around the containment. When you set boundaries, we discover what lies beyond them. It's our nature. Chancellor Zix9's patterns shifted to display impatience. Your nature is irrelevant. The galaxy operates under certain rules. Those rules exist for good reason. Your rules, Alina corrected. Rules written by civilizations that had already claimed the best territories, controlled the richest trade routes, and established themselves as the dominant powers. Rules designed to maintain the status quo. The status quo maintains peace. Morthak growled. Your peace, Alina said, built on the suppression of younger civilizations who might challenge your dominance. She gestured to the display, and new information appeared. Supply lines, trade routes, and resource flows became visible, showing the complex web of dependencies that held the galaxy together. Did you know, Alina asked conversationally, that the Coalition controls 67% of all interstellar commerce? That your member civilizations hold 93% of all advanced technology patents? That species granted Coalition membership in the last 500 years have been limited to service industries and resource extraction? Several minor delegates stirred uneasily. These were uncomfortable truths that were rarely discussed openly. The system works, Zix9 insisted. It has maintained stability for millennia. It has maintained your dominance, Alina replied. There's a difference. The hidden truth. She touched her wrist device again, and the display changed dramatically. The star chart now showed something that made every delegate lean forward in shock. Human space wasn't the modest cluster of 17 worlds they had assumed. Red markers indicated human presence in over 300 systems, scattered across 4 galactic arms. This is impossible, breathed Silvera. Our sensors show no human settlements in those sectors. Your sensors show what we want them to show, Alina said calmly. Did you really think humanity would reveal all our capabilities to civilizations that saw us as a threat to be contained? The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Delegates spoke rapidly in their native languages, their translation systems struggling to keep up with the chaos. Alina waited patiently for the noise to subside. For 30 years, she continued, humanity has been building. Not just colonies, but infrastructure. Not just ships, but entire fleets. Not just settlements, but civilizations. We've been preparing for this day. Chancellor Zix9's form had darkened with anger. You've been deceiving the Coalition for decades. This is an act of war. This is an act of independence, Alina corrected. We're not declaring war on anyone. We're simply refusing to accept your limitations. The consequences will be severe, Morthak warned. No species survives isolation from galactic society. Alina's smile returned, colder this time. Honored delegates, you seem to be laboring under a misunderstanding. We're not the ones who will be isolated. The display changed again, showing trade routes and supply lines throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of connections were highlighted in blue, representing economic relationships with human enterprises. Over the past 3 decades, Alina explained, human businesses have quietly integrated themselves into galactic commerce. We provide essential services to 47% of Coalition worlds. Our manufacturing facilities supply components for 73% of galactic starships. Our agricultural worlds feed 31% of the galaxy's population. The implications hit the delegates like a physical blow. If humanity withdrew from galactic commerce, the economic disruption would be catastrophic. You cannot hold the galaxy hostage, Zix9 protested. We're not holding anyone hostage, Alina replied. We're simply exercising our right to choose our trading partners. Independent civilizations have that right, don't they? This is economic warfare, accused Delegate Vextar of the hegemony. This is free market economics, Alina countered. Supply and demand. If the Coalition wants to maintain trade relationships with humanity, they'll need to negotiate with us as equals, not subjects. The preparation. Unknown to the alien delegates, across human space, the largest coordinated operation in human history was already underway. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the command center of a hidden facility buried deep within an asteroid in the Kepler system, watching as status reports flowed in from every corner of human space. Phase 1 complete, reported his operations officer. All official diplomatic channels have been severed. Ambassador Rodriguez is maintaining position as planned. Chen nodded grimly. Elena was buying them precious time with her performance at Nexus Prime. The aliens still thought they were dealing with a small dependent species that could be bullied into submission. Status on the colonies, he asked. Ghost Protocol is active across all settlements. To galactic sensors, we've simply vanished. All trade stations are switching to classified networks. Supply lines are being rerouted through neutral space. Dr. Sarah Mitchell approached from the research section, her face grim but determined. Admiral, the stealth field generators are performing beyond expectations. Coalition ships are scanning right through our settlements without detecting anything. Good, Chen replied. How long before they realize what's happening? Based on their normal patrol schedules and communication delays, we have perhaps 6 hours before they understand the scope of our withdrawal. After that, they'll start looking harder. Chen studied the massive display showing human space. 300 systems, 500 colonies, thousands of ships, and 50 million human beings were counting on this operation succeeding. And our defensive preparations. Mitchell's expression grew more confident. The new propulsion systems are online. Our ships can now outrun anything in the galactic fleet. The defensive platforms are hidden but ready. If they try to force us back into compliance, they'll discover that humanity is no longer the weak newcomer they remember. The revelation. Back at Nexus Prime, the debate had grown heated. Representatives from smaller civilizations were beginning to ask uncomfortable questions about the Coalition's treatment of emerging species. The unity that had seemed so solid an hour earlier was starting to crack. Elena waited for the right moment, then activated her wrist device one final time. The display now showed something that silenced every voice in the chamber. Military assets. Human military assets. The red markers indicated the positions of human warships throughout the galaxy. Not the small patrol craft and defensive platforms the Coalition knew about, but massive dreadnoughts, carrier fleets, and weapon platforms that rivaled anything in the galactic arsenal. Where did you get these ships? Zix-9 whispered, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with fear. We built them, Elena said simply. Did you think humanity would remain defenseless while surrounded by civilizations that saw us as a problem to be solved? The technology required. Silvera's energy form pulsed with shock. These designs are beyond anything in our databases. Human innovation, Elena explained. When you limit our access to your technology, we develop our own. When you restrict our research, we find new approaches. When you try to contain us, we become uncontainable. The truth was finally sinking in. Humanity hadn't been the dependent junior partner they had assumed. For 30 years, humans had been quietly building their own civilization, developing their own technology, and preparing for independence. This changes everything, murmured Delegate Korth of the Spiral Alliance. If humanity can develop this level of technology in secret, what other capabilities do they possess? Elena's expression softened slightly. We don't want to be your enemies. We never did. All we've ever wanted was to be treated as equals, to have the same rights and freedoms that you take for granted. Equals. Morthax snarled. Your species is barely 3 centuries old. You know nothing of galactic history, galactic law, galactic wisdom. We know enough, Elena replied. We know that wisdom without freedom is just another form of slavery. We know that stability without justice is just organized oppression. And we know that peace imposed through fear isn't really peace at all. She began walking toward the chamber's exit, her message delivered. Behind her, the alien delegates stared at displays showing the humanity they had never suspected existed. Where are you going? Zix-9 called after her. Elena paused at the threshold. Home. To a civilization that values growth over control, exploration over safety, and freedom over stability. To a people who believe that the universe is vast enough for everyone to find their place in it. You cannot simply leave, protested Silvera. There are procedures, protocols, agreements to consider. Your procedures, Alina said. Your protocols. Your agreements. We never agreed to them. We were told to accept them or face the consequences. She looked back one final time at the assembled delegates. Well, honored representatives, you're about to discover what the consequences really are. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you try to cage humanity. The chamber doors sealed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the alien delegates alone with the terrifying realization that everything they thought they knew about the balance of power in the galaxy had just changed forever. In the hours that followed, as reports poured in from across human space, the scope of humanity's exodus became clear. Every human settlement, every trade station, every diplomatic outpost had simply vanished from galactic sensors. It was as if an entire civilization had been erased from existence. But the economic shockwaves that followed told a different story. Supply chains collapsed. Manufacturing ground to a halt. Food shortages appeared on dozens of worlds. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about just how dependent they had become on the species they had tried to suppress. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity was writing the next chapter of their story, free from the limitations others had tried to impose. The galaxy's fear. The vanishing. The first reports came in sporadically, scattered communications from trade stations and patrol ships across the galaxy. At first, Coalition Command dismissed them as equipment malfunctions or communication errors. Ships didn't just disappear from sensors. Entire colonies didn't simply vanish into thin air. But as the hours passed and the reports multiplied, the truth became impossible to ignore. Humanity had somehow achieved what no species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had completely withdrawn from galactic society without leaving a trace. Commander Vrexnel of the Coalition Fleet stood in the primary command center aboard the battleship Dominion, staring at tactical displays that showed nothing where human settlements should have been. His crystalline skin flickered with patterns of confusion and growing concern. "Status report," he demanded, his voice carrying the authority of 500 years of military service. Lieutenant Corthus, a young Krillian officer, stepped forward nervously. "Sir, we've completed sensor sweeps of all 17 registered human colonies. The planets are still there, but all human infrastructure has vanished. No energy signatures, no communication signals, no signs of recent habitation." "Impossible," Vrexnel growled. "Colonies don't evacuate without leaving traces. Where are the transport signatures? The debris fields? The evidence of mass evacuation?" "That's just it, sir," Corthus replied, his mandibles clicking with anxiety. "There's no evidence of evacuation. It's as if the humans and all their technology simply ceased to exist." The commander's form darkened with anger. In his centuries of service, he had put down rebellions, quelled uprisings, and enforced coalition law across the galaxy. He had never encountered anything like this. "What about their ships?" he asked. "Our tracking systems monitor all registered human vessels. All human ships have disappeared from our networks," reported the navigation officer. "Quantum wake signatures end abruptly with no indication of destruction or emergency stops. They've achieved some form of transportation that our sensors cannot detect." The search. Within 12 hours of humanity's disappearance, the Coalition had mobilized the largest search operation in galactic history. Fleets from a dozen major civilizations spread across known space, scanning every system where humans had ever established a presence. Chancellor Zix9 coordinated the search from his command vessel, the Hegemony, a massive ship that served as the mobile headquarters for Coalition operations. His bioluminescent patterns pulsed with frustrated anger as report after report confirmed the same impossible result. "Search Team Alpha, report," he commanded. The voice of Captain Silthera crackled through the communication system. "Chancellor, we've completed deep scans of the Alpha Centauri system. The star system is exactly as it should be, but every trace of human civilization has been removed. Space stations, orbital platforms, asteroid mining operations, all gone. What about planetary surfaces? The planets show signs of previous terraforming, but all human settlements have been completely removed. There's no debris, no abandoned structures, no indication of how this was accomplished. Zix-9's patterns flared with rage. Search Team Beta. Status. Similar results in the Kepler system, Chancellor. We've detected unusual gravitational fluctuations suggesting massive engineering projects, but no physical evidence remains. This is a deliberate insult, snarled Delegate Morthak, his massive form looming over the command center. They're hiding from us, making us look foolish. They're doing more than hiding, Zix-9 replied grimly. They're demonstrating capabilities we didn't know they possessed. Dr. Velterra, the Coalition's chief scientist, approached the command platform with a datapad in her tentacles. Her energy-based form flickered with scientific excitement despite the gravity of the situation. Chancellor, I've analyzed the sensor data from multiple search teams. The evidence suggests that humanity didn't evacuate their settlements. They transported them. Transported them where? That's the terrifying part, Velterra admitted. The energy signatures suggest dimensional displacement on a massive scale. They've moved entire civilizations to locations our sensors cannot detect. The economic collapse. While the military searched for humanity's missing colonies, the galaxy was beginning to feel the economic impact of their withdrawal. Supply chains that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly collapsed as human suppliers vanished overnight. Minister Kextar of Galactic Commerce stood before an emergency session of the Economic Council, his multiple arms gesturing frantically at holographic displays showing plummeting production numbers. The situation is worse than we initially calculated, he announced, his voice carrying panic poorly disguised as professional concern. Human enterprises weren't just suppliers. They were integral to our entire economic infrastructure. Explain, demanded Councillor Zephyr of the Trade Federation. Human manufacturing facilities produced 37% of all Starship components used by civilian fleets. Their agricultural worlds supplied food to over 200 Coalition planets. Their mining operations extracted rare minerals essential to our technology. The displays showed supply chains stretching across the galaxy, all now broken by humanity's withdrawal. Red warning indicators marked critical shortages already appearing in dozens of sectors. How long before these shortages become critical? Asked another counselor. Food shortages are already appearing on 17 worlds, Kextar reported. Manufacturing delays are backing up shipbuilding schedules across 4 sectors. If we can't restore these supply lines within 30 days, we're looking at economic catastrophe. Councillor Zephyr's energy form pulsed with worry. What about emergency suppliers? Alternative sources? We're working on it, but human efficiency was exceptional. They produced goods at quality levels and cost ratios that other suppliers can't match. Even if we find alternatives, the economic disruption will last for years. The truth was settling over the galaxy like a dark cloud. Humanity hadn't just withdrawn from galactic society. They had taken the foundations of galactic prosperity with them. The discovery. 3 days after humanity's disappearance, Scout Ship Wanderer made a discovery that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human capabilities. Captain Yixnel, a veteran explorer from the Spiral Alliance, had been investigating anomalous readings in what was supposed to be empty space on the galactic rim. Coalition Command, this is Wanderer. We found something you need to see. Chancellor Zix-9's image appeared on the scout ship's communication screen. Report, Captain. We've located what appears to be a human construction site. It's massive. The scout ship's cameras focused on a structure that defied comprehension. Spanning hundreds of kilometers, the construction looked like a combination of city, fortress, and starship. Its dark hull absorbed sensor beams, making detailed analysis impossible. How many humans would a facility that size support? Zix-9 asked. Based on its apparent volume, millions, maybe tens of millions. That's impossible. Intelligence reports indicated humanity's total population was less than 50 million across all their colonies. Captain Yixnell's voice carried a note of fear. Chancellor, I don't think our intelligence reports were accurate about anything regarding humanity. As Wanderer approached the massive structure, its sensors detected something even more disturbing. The construction wasn't alone. Long-range scans revealed similar structures throughout the sector, each one representing a human population center larger than most coalition worlds. How many of these facilities are out here? Zix-9 demanded. We're detecting at least 40 in this sector alone, sir. And there are indications of similar construction in 7 other rim sectors. The implications hit the coalition leadership like a physical blow. If each structure housed millions of humans, then humanity's actual population was far larger than anyone had suspected. They weren't dealing with a small species trying to find its place in the galaxy. They were facing a civilization that might rival the coalition itself. The message. As the galaxy struggled to understand the scope of humanity's withdrawal, a message appeared simultaneously on every major communication network. The transmission bypassed all security protocols and appeared directly on screens across coalition space. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez appeared on the display, but she was no longer in the simple diplomatic uniform she had worn at Nexus Prime. Instead, she wore the black and silver uniform of what appeared to be a military organization, unknown to galactic intelligence. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, her voice carrying clearly through translation matrices across hundreds of worlds. Humanity wishes to address the concerns that have arisen following our withdrawal from Coalition oversight. In the Coalition Command Center, Zix-9 and his staff watched in stunned silence. The transmission was reaching every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously, a feat that required communication technology beyond anything in Coalition databases. We understand that our departure has caused economic disruption and confusion. This was not our intention, but it was an inevitable consequence of the situation the Coalition created. Elena paused, allowing her words to sink in across the galaxy. For 30 years, humanity accepted the role assigned to us by galactic civilization. We were the newcomers, the junior partners, the species that needed guidance and oversight. We played that role because we hoped to find our place as equals in galactic society. Her expression hardened. We have learned that equality was never an option offered to us. The Coalition's vision of galactic civilization requires hierarchy, with established powers maintaining dominance over emerging species. Humanity rejects this vision. The transmission showed new images, the massive human constructions that scout ships had discovered, fleets of advanced warships, technological facilities that made Coalition installations look primitive by comparison. The humanity you knew was a carefully constructed facade. While we appeared to accept your limitations, we were building our own civilization. While we seemed dependent on your technology, we were developing our own innovations. While you saw us as subjects to be controlled, we were preparing for independence. The new reality. The message continued, but now Elena's tone became more conciliatory. We do not wish to be enemies of galactic civilization. Humanity has always believed that the universe is vast enough for all species to find our own path among the stars. We simply refuse to accept that our path must be dictated by others. She gestured, and the display showed trade routes and communication networks spreading from human space to dozens of independent worlds and minor civilizations. To those species who wish to trade with humanity as equals, our markets remain open. To those civilizations seeking technology transfer and cultural exchange, we offer partnership based on mutual respect. To those who value exploration and discovery over security and control, we extend invitations to join us in pushing the boundaries of known space. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just withdrawing from Coalition space. They were offering an alternative to Coalition membership. For the first time in millennia, emerging species had a choice. But understand this, Elena continued, her voice carrying quiet authority. Humanity will no longer tolerate attempts to limit our growth, restrict our exploration, or dictate our development. We have moved beyond your ability to contain us. The transmission showed brief glimpses of human military capabilities, weapons that could crack planets, ships that could outrun anything in the galactic fleet, defensive systems that made human space impregnable. The old order is ending. The galaxy must decide whether the new order will be built on cooperation or conflict. The choice, as always, belongs to those in power. The waiting game. As Elena's message ended, the galaxy fell into an uneasy silence. The Coalition's leadership found themselves facing the situation they had never prepared for. A species that had grown beyond their control and now possessed the power to challenge their authority. Emergency sessions convened across Coalition space. Military leaders demanded immediate action to restore galactic order. Economic ministers warned of impending collapse if trade relationships weren't restored. Political representatives from minor species began asking uncomfortable questions about their own status within the Coalition hierarchy. Chancellor Zix9 stood alone in his private chambers aboard the Hegemony, staring out at the stars and contemplating a galaxy that had suddenly become far more dangerous and unpredictable. His communication system chimed, and the image of Admiral Vrexnull appeared. Chancellor, our fleet commanders are requesting permission to begin military operations against human space. With what? Zix9 asked wearily. We don't know where human space actually is. Our intelligence was completely wrong about their capabilities, their population, and their intentions. How can we fight an enemy we don't understand? We have to do something, sir, if other species follow humanity's example. Zix9's bioluminescent patterns dimmed with exhaustion. Then the Coalition as we know it ceases to exist. The galaxy had entered a new era, one where the old certainties no longer applied. Humanity had walked away from the established order and forced every other species to confront a fundamental question. Was galactic civilization strong enough to adapt to a new reality, or would it collapse under the weight of its own inflexibility? In the darkness between the stars, humanity waited patiently for the galaxy's answer. They had chosen their path, and now it was time to see whether the rest of the galaxy would choose cooperation or conflict.